David Pakman defends Joe Biden actually going. It's wild. Now it's in a roundabout way, but let's listen. The title of the video: right wingers triggered by Biden's Ukraine trip as Putin threatens. So, as if this is not a planned trip, but as Putin threatens, that's why he's going. But let's listen.
Biden made a visit to Ukraine yesterday, and it was a completely reasonable visit. It was the indication that Joe Biden and his security team aren't scared to go to Kyiv, where there were air raid sirens.
They literally asked, let me say this real quick. I didn't say this last segment. I meant to say this because I didn't include this last segment. You know how they were pretending that Joe Biden's being all heroic for going to Ukraine despite the sirens going. Oh my God, Joe Biden's going to active war zone. Motherfucker, the United States asked Putin for permission like a bitch. And Putin said, oh yeah, okay, Biden, you can do this trip. I'll allow you to do this trip. Russia allowed that to happen. So they keep saying that Biden made this great sacrifice. They got Russia's permission. And they never include that in any of these segments. And that I'm sure David Pakman won't either.
No, because they want to make him look heroic. It's all about, because that's what they got. And it's so weird how they all coordinate. And we saw that in that previous video in the previous segment. But let's listen to more of David Pakman. It's more of just nonsense like this.
The Ukrainian president, Vladimir Zelensky, and yet Republicans are absolutely furious. Some even borderline defending
only Republicans.
Putin, as Putin has.
You see how these people manufacture consent? I want to keep playing. I made my point short. But you see how they manufacture consent? He says Republicans mad over a trip to Ukraine. The job of the boutique left is to erase legitimate Marxist and communist criticism of the Democratic Party. It's not Marxist and working-class people that calling this out. It's only Trumpers. The same thing they did to the anti-war rally. Not a collection of working class people to come together to resist the U.S. imperialist machine. It's just a bunch of Republicans and right wingers.
Yeah, Rachel Maddow did the same thing. Actually, that's the same. That's right. So let's listen.
Suspended the New START treaty, the most belligerent signal recently since the invasion of Ukraine.
Oh my God! Everything
he may indeed.
The United States pulled out of 2. I covered this yesterday. The United States put out 2 nuclear armed treaties, including Donald Trump, the guy you guys claim is a Russian puppet. Let's continue. I want to stop because everything he says is a lie.
No, keep stop. That's why I told you. That's why I told you. I'm telling you. You gotta keep interrupting because literally it is jam packed. You cannot get through it because you're gonna be like, damn, I can't let this shit go. No, I'm telling you, man. Like, stop it. Like we gotta knock down these points because this guy, he's the reason why to me he's a bad propagandist, easily spot because he does this. He packs too much.
Yeah, it's too aggressive.
He packs too much. Yeah, it's too much of it. So let's listen.
At least considering the use of nuclear weapons in this conflict. And it is difficult to know where to start, but let's maybe start with the statements from Vladimir Putin. The Associated Press reports Russia suspends only remaining major nuclear treaty.
Why is that the only one remaining?
Russian.
He knows how you're not going to ask the question. Why is that the only one left? David Pakman. Why is that the only nuclear treaty left? Let's continue the video. I think that question says
but that's the escalation. We pulled out the 2 other ones, and you pulled out the last one. You escalatory. It's ridiculous.
Russian President Vladimir Putin declared Tuesday that Moscow was suspending its participation in the New START treaty, the last remaining nuclear arms control pact with the United States, sharply upping the ante amid tensions with Washington over the fighting in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin made the statement during his State of the Nation address, during which he also said Russia should stand ready to resume nuclear weapons tests if the U.S. does so, a move that would end a global ban on nuclear weapons tests in place since Cold War times. This is not
You forgot. You didn't hear the part where it says if the U.S. does so.
He skipped over that real fast. These propagandists always do that. They skip over it real fast, like that Chris Hayes report. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to do a segment on where he was like, "Yeah, the right are acting outraged over East Palestine, but it was actually Donald Trump that helped deregulated the trade industry and Barack Obama too." But you see how they were hypocrites. They like sneak this shit in and never emphasize the point, like David Pakman just did there, where they read it real fast and never emphasize it. Let's continue.
All right, so here goes a little more. Let me know when you want to talk.
A coincidence in terms of its timing. Joe Biden yesterday in Ukraine and Putin today, of course, we're adjusting for the time difference, today saying these things. This is a very real threat. We now have the possibility of China aiding Russia that is increasingly in the background of the discussion.
There's
and the
literally
United
no way to
States in
repeat
the
that.
midst.
I'll let it play. I can't believe you just said that. But
which is an unproven.
Remember what I told you, CJ? You can. I have not watched none of these people. Like you be showing me these people for the first time. I watch more than Joe and those people because I will see what they say, and then you pull these videos up of these boutique leftists that people in the TYT crowd consider progressive, and I'm like, this nigga sound just like Joe Scarborough. This sounds just like when I do my opposition research against corporate media and you show me independent left media, it's the same fucking thing. And it blows my mind every time. It blows my mind.
Of that, trying to figure out, and when I say that, I don't mean trying to figure out as if the answer is obvious. I don't mean like Trump's trying to figure out how tariffs work. Well, it's like we know how tariffs work. We are genuinely trying to see what possible diplomatic paths forward there are while continuing to support Ukraine militarily.
This is a good point, CJ. I want to read this comment because this is also why I think it's important that we break this stuff down. This is from Earth Centered 11. I know people here understand how insane this is, but good to hear what people like this think. And this is why I'll show you guys what Morning Joe says. This is why we show you what Tucker Carlson says. This is why we show you what the NATO left says. As Marxists, we need to study our enemy, know what they're saying, and be able to break down their points. This guy is dead fucking serious right now. His audience is dead serious. And we're going to run into these morons. And that's why we got to study our enemy. But anyway, I love that comment. Let's continue.
We're going to run into these morons.
Although some on the right don't want to accept that. But meanwhile, many Republicans, and we're not going to look through every example because I don't have 3 hours to just play these clips for you. Republicans criticizing Joe Biden for this trip to Ukraine. And remember that with a lot of these things, it's always, we're going to criticize no matter what. Biden hasn't gone to the border. Kamala hasn't gone to the border. They go, well,
why do they criticize no matter what, David?
Also to the wrong.
These people have no critical thinking skills. Why do they criticize no matter what, David? Think about it, guys. We criticize no matter what because they're always shit to criticize.
They're always doing bad shit.
David Pakman, like, oh, these poor politicians always got to worry about these nitpicky American workers. The American workers always find something to complain about. Yes, do better. And that's what you should be calling for your politicians instead of complaining that American people are nitpicky. Class interest here, sirs and ma'ams. When you're a Marxist, you understand what David Pakman is doing. This is him showing his class interest. Sorry, CJ, let's go. This dude's fucking ridiculous. This is so ridiculous, man. Let's continue.
City on the border. Well, but they went. But no, but that shows they don't really care. I thought not going showed they didn't care. Well, no, going but to the wrong place at the wrong time also shows they don't care. They just want to criticize, but it's becoming increasingly pathetic and concerning from the standpoint of, do these Republicans even hold as a priority what's best for the United States and our people? Here's Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace saying,
why you only ask for one party? Go ahead, CJ. Go ahead.
So this guy, he's almost, I don't know if he developed, what he did is great propaganda tactic. So it's like Joe Biden is getting demolished over going to Ukraine. So, and he knows that. But instead of starting with the story of the problem, he starts with this other thing to make it seem like that's more important than that. Now he's going to introduce how this other problem is. So it's like, He blows up nuclear it's a nuclear war. Nuclear war, nukes are going to be coming. Putin, look at Putin. Scary, scary, scary. So he goes to visit this scary place. That's what he goes to do. So he's setting that up. So when he comes to the critique, that is actually the main part. It's like, well, of course. You see how his audience is going to read it? It's going to be like, why are you so mad? He's out there making freedom. And that's what he's doing here.
And I featured a comment just now.
It was President's Day.
Sorry,
to go to Ukraine instead of.
I featured a comment just now. I featured a comment not too long ago that said that David Pakman is a young Joe Scarborough. And you definitely see that his intention.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, he's not as good as Joe Scarborough because he hid propaganda better. As you said earlier, David just went all in. It's super easy to spot. You're too desperate. Joe is more relaxed. Like he tells story first. He appeals to American patriotism. Like it's an artwork. Like I would not put David Pakman on the same level as Joe Scarborough.
No.
He's not talented, but he's a young version. This motherfucker is learning.
Not polished yet.
He's getting better. And in 20 years, he's going to be a Joe Scarborough. Look at the title. Remember how we titled our videos on the segment? Biden crushed because he called out Biden. Biden abandons Ohio, right? These are the titles that our channel has been using, our allies been using, right? Look at how David Pakman titled this video. Right-wingers triggered. Using e-speak now. Right-wingers triggered over Biden Ukraine trip as Putin's speaker, deflecting from the fact that Biden abandoned these people, and now he's trying to make it about, right-wingers is triggered. This is internet propaganda. This is good, and not more than Joe's level, but you see what it's
not that high. Everything learning.
Everything is planned, but it's not more than Joe level. He's getting there, but let's continue, CJ.
Instead of Ohio, it was President's Day after all.
Word salad, if you ask me, kind of an embarrassment on the world stage. And to be in Ukraine on President's Day, as was just mentioned, rather than going to Ohio, where Americans really are suffering on one of the largest environmental disasters in my lifetime, at least it is an embarrassment. And this.
So I thought Americans were primarily suffering, Nancy and Republicans, from high from inflation, from high energy prices, and
well, this thing that just happened. So all the things you're listing, you see how he's trying to give them cover for other things. He's giving the Democrats cover for other things. Well, you told me this other thing was important. It's like, dude, this just happened. This new thing just happened. Go ahead, Nick.
I'm cracking up so much. Nancy, but he don't even realize he makes their point here. Like, these people are so dumb. He was like, the American people are suffering because of inflation and all these serious issues. Do you care about that, Nancy? The point is that if the American people are suffering this much, David, why is Biden sending so much money to Ukraine? You make the argument on why Biden should not be doing that, and instead focus on the American people, which is the criticism that you're not debunking. Let's continue.
Exactly.
And other sorts of economic instability directly linked to what's going on in Ukraine. No, now that's not important because you have to say it was wrong for Biden to go, and instead he should have gone to Ohio. So now Ohio becomes really where people are suffering. Now, of course, there's suffering elsewhere. There's always suffering elsewhere. And Joe Biden's no longer in the basement, but he's in the wrong place. So that's bad as well. Why didn't he go to the border yesterday? I mean, it's President's Day after all. So we've talked about this before. This is like running through a cancer fundraiser and screaming, what about Parkinson's? Are you all ignored? Don't you care about Parkinson's?
You see this despicable trying to say that going to Ukraine for this, tap dancing trip for weapons manufacturers trying to get more money and trying to drum up more support because they see support for this public support for this is going down. So they see that. So he's trying to compare that like there's some sort of immediate threat he needed to get to, like the immediate threat also being this toxic stuff. So this is terrible how he's trying to say cancer. Oh, I'm at a cancer event for my lungs and you're complaining that I'm at a cancer event. That's not the same thing. I'm complaining you're at a cancer event for my lungs while you're at the Universal Studio Prop watching, filming a movie. That's the comparison, not to. So it's despicable with when he gets to that part, and I'll let him finish out with a couple of more lines, and we'll finish. Yeah.
And then you go to the Parkinson's fundraiser, and you say, every last one of you should be ashamed of yourselves that you're doing nothing about AIDS. Do you know about AIDS? And you're talking about Parkinson.
Wow.
This is always, it's very tired. It's very lowbrow. It's very transparent, but they can always do this. And
and you see why he had to make the first point, and I can stop there. You see why, Nick, he had to make the first point and make it nukes are coming. Putin is threatening nukes. You see how he had to make that. He had to create a quote unquote the other cancer. And that's why he had to create that, so he can say, look, you're just choosing one cancer event and you guys are getting mad. It's like, no, that's exactly what he did. Like I said, his propaganda is way more easily, it's more amateur, so it's easier to spot. Yeah.